Hello, I'm Adam Evans, Director and Co-founder of Levick Stanley. For those of you who don't know, I set up Levick Stanley in 2017 with my business partner, Jonathan Cox, as a specialist recruiter for change, transformation, tech and data roles. In this series, I'm talking to senior leaders from within change and transformation to understand more about their career and their achievements, things they've learned the hard way and what they think the future looks like for our sector. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Alastair Woods, who's been COO at char.gy since March this year. char.gy provides and operates electrical vehicle charge points with a commitment to accelerate the UK's transition to more sustainable transport methods. Prior to char.gy, where I met Alastair, he was working at Openreach and BT Group, where we've worked with him a lot and provided a lot of good people to him, and he was leading and delivering large-scale transformation programs. More recently, Alastair has recommended us to bring on Marcus Pengilly, who joined us back in July, as Marcus was playing golf at the same club as Alastair, and approached him and said, I'd like to get into recruitment, any ideas? So thank you, Alastair. Marcus has been a brilliant addition to the team.
Good. No, thank you for inviting me on, Adam. It's nice to be here. And yeah, I guess thanks for all your support as well during my time at BT, and then most recently getting me the latest recruit, my new head of contracts management. I can't name the name, obviously for obvious reasons, but no, he'll join in late October, November, and he's going to be a great addition to the team and the business. So thank you.
Yeah, exciting to be working with you, a new client as well, particularly quite an exciting one. It's always nice to be talking to prospective candidates about, companies that are looking to grow and scale, etc. So it's an exciting organisation to help recruit and build a team. And also exciting that you are day one in your new office room. So it looks fabulous.
Yes.
So congratulations building that yourself. Good job.
Thank you. It's amazing what's behind the camera, but we'll talk about that another time. So no, this bit looks good. So there you go.
Yeah, don't pan around. Exactly that.
Yeah.
So I've got a few questions, and obviously just you're going to keep it nice and conversational. But so question one, you've recently stepped into the role of COO at char.gy. I guess what led you to that opportunity, and what are you most excited about?
Yeah, so I kind of broken this down into a few different themes. I think first of all, what led me to the role is probably what leads a lot of people to roles. It's probably my network. Just for a bit of background, I was in BT Openreach for 23 years and then decided to take a sabbatical, which was great. I had a number of months with my baby, Willow, who's nearly 3, and be a full-time dad. And that enabled me to build a network across the sector I was in, but also other sectors. So I guess that was important to me, and that opened doors. This role came about as a conversation I'd had with somebody. I wasn't necessarily looking to move into a new role. I'd left BT and gone somewhere else. But this ticked a lot of boxes around the purpose, what it stood for, and I think more importantly, the people that they'd recruited and the people that were in position. And I think there's a question later. I'll talk about how important that is. So I think first and foremost, it was the network, and then I was very keen to get a better balance. So after BT, I'd taken a job quite far away from home, and it was hugely challenging, rewarding, but also put a lot of pressure on my young family. And I think the reality was, in your career, you sometimes make you take opportunities that are going to stretch you, which that definitely did. I hadn't probably realised how much it would stretch not just me, but my family. And when that balance isn't right, I think that's the point you reflect on and make changes. So yeah, I guess the reason for changing was the opportunity was too good to turn down. It gave me a much better balance, and I got there through the network I'd built up. And the reason I'm most excited for char.gy, I think first and foremost, is the purpose and what we stand for, not just in terms of putting EV charge points in the street to allow the 40% of people that don't have a driveway to charge and to first of all buy an electric vehicle and then charge it. It's about the purpose the business has on doing a significant amount around the reduction of the carbon footprint in the UK. Like you, I've got small children. Yours are a bit older than mine, but you know what I mean. I always feel about leaving a legacy. So coming to a business that's a B Corp and very purposeful was very important to me.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah, it's interesting that you reference family there. I think it is so important getting that balance right. It's difficult, isn't it? And I think particularly with the younger children. So it's all ever changing, but it's great that you found that balance with this organisation, certainly.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, network is so key, isn't it? Like, you mentioned that a few times in that sort of answer, and it's just, I say to everyone who's looking, what are you doing at the moment about job search? Because it is, it's a tricky market. It has been for a while. There's a lot of good quality candidates out there who are looking. So how do you distinguish yourself from the masses? And I think it's about networks, about getting out there and not just clicking on adverts and saying, I've done a good job today because I've applied for 20 jobs. Who have you met? Who have you had a coffee with? Who have you spent some time with? Who have you leaned on? That sort of thing. So network is key, I think. And that's the advice I give everyone.
Yeah. Funny enough on that, like someone had reached out to me yesterday to say, or earlier this week to say to me, they're coming to the end of their 3-year stint in some executive role in another business, and I sent names of which you guys were one. Said reach out to them, see what, because I think that network is really, really powerful and can unlock doors. And I think we're all in that position as well at the moment. I don't know about you, but I used to just be emails, you'd get contacted. Now it's WhatsApp, and even worse, it's text messaging. Like they know my name and they just text me like a friend and talk about job roles and stuff like that. So whilst it's good in some respects, I suppose if you're out of work, it can be quite frustrating. So having that network that you trust, I think, is very important.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll make a note not to send you a voice note. That's fine. I'll do that for you.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I know you.
Thank you. Oh, good. But I think there's lots of different ways of being reached, and unfortunately, sometimes it's not particularly helpful. But it's good. Looking at your career so far, thinking about leadership and operations, obviously leading quite large teams, particularly when you're at BT and Openreach, and now scaling this team. What has shaped your approach to that? What has shaped your approach to leadership and operations?
Yeah, so kind of talking about in isolation. So I think leading people or teams is something that you could argue maybe that you're born to do, and that's not trying to sound big-headed. I just think, like, if I look back to my time at school and playing in all of the sports team, I mean, I absolutely love all sports. And if someone had, like the teacher or the outside school football coach said, who wants to captain the team, like, I would have absolutely put my hand up. Who wants to open the batting, I will. Who wants to open the bowling, I will, kind of thing. So I think from a very early age, I've just loved being part of a team, and I've really enjoyed taking responsibility within those teams. Not always being the captain, but going on to manage teams, set up football clubs and stuff like that. I love the responsibility that comes with it. I'm definitely driven on outcomes. I like the idea that in a sport environment or a business environment, you can start doing something and then get to the end and deliver an outcome. I think that's hugely important to me. I also like the idea from a leadership perspective in building teams, building people's careers, and leaving a legacy. And I think leadership, kind of different to management, allows you to do that if you do it right. I suppose doing it right or wrong is the opinion of the person doing it, but that's how I see it. In terms of operations, for me, it's all about really, again, I left school, I did A-levels, didn't go to university, but kind of fell into an apprenticeship where I could earn money, get qualifications, and that was in the world of operations. So I'd fallen into it, but I love the idea of being driven by outcomes. I think operations gives you real clarity where you're heading, what you're trying to achieve. In operations, I feel that there's a huge support network around you. I think it's, just being totally honest, in operations, because you're running to the fire often, you're deemed to be successful, and with that comes recognition. And I think I'm somebody that really enjoys to be recognised, but also likes to give out recognition. I see the benefit it has within teams. And then operations obviously gives you that immediate impact. So some roles I've had, they're slow burning, or actually you're totally reliant on somebody else delivering something. Whereas in operations, and especially when you're transforming operations, the change is like tangible. You can see it every day. You can see the culture change, and you can see the output being totally different. So I think those would be why I love leadership and operations, and kind of that's kind of shaped my career. I've known no different, but I think it's the things that I love. So why not improve the things you love rather than the other things that maybe not interest you as much?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you mentioned that as well. Sort of giving praise is so important, but also receiving praise, and it's not being, obviously you can't ask someone to give you praise, but like not being kind of afraid to look for it and ask for it as well. I think it's to be recognised is great. And that kind of makes me think about team growth and building the right team around you. So I suppose, what do you look for when you are bringing in new talent at this stage of the team? And then secondly, how do you go and build a good team and keep that team around you, the right team, so to speak?
Yeah, so I think in my career, what I've learned is that the best leaders and managers are those that build the best teams. I did a presentation earlier on this week where I talked about Sir Alex Ferguson. I think he's somebody that would be arguably is probably the greatest football manager of all time, but he definitely realised that he was a great manager, not necessarily a great coach, very good coach, but then surrounded himself with great assistant managers and changed them on a regular basis. So I think the first thing would be, building the right team is about surrounding yourself with the right talented people, and then building a team that's cognitively diverse. I think I read a book by Matthew Syed a while ago, which talks about cognitive diversity and this idea of if you surround yourself with a load of Alastair Woodses, you're going to get an Alastair Woods outcome. Whereas if you surround yourself with a completely diverse team, you're going to be really challenged, and actually the outcome might be something you're uncomfortable with, but is the right outcome for the environment that you're in, or the business or the transformation program that you're dealing with. I think when you go into a new business, and I found this, you definitely have to be really careful not to judge people as others judge them. So I think it's a clean slate is very important. And what I mean by that is giving people the chance to prove themselves to you and the time to grow. Because obviously the way I might do things could be different to my predecessor. And then you need time to then get up to speed with the way that the organisation operates as well. So I think it's important for both to have the time to grow. In terms of recruitment, I think it's twofold for me. In my work and my roles, there's always a need to have like a subject matter expert or competency level in recruitment. So there's some roles you just have to recruit for because you need the right level of competency, authority, regulatory certifications and stuff like that. So that's important. And I think secondly, it's about bringing in people who have the right attitude. So in my career, I've not always gone out and found people necessarily from the sector that I'm in. I've often found people that have got transferable skills to be the most challenging to me, but also the ones with the greatest attitude. And I would also say that challenges me, which then gets greater business outcomes. I've talked about it previously, but I think that is really important. And then I think in this world, and similar to my time in Openreach, the latter few years in my career, definitely around when you recruit, I think it's important to see that the person is aligned when it comes to purpose. Because why come and work in a world where we're trying to make a real difference, using renewable energy to build EV networks to give people the chance to make a huge difference. If you're not really on point with that, or you don't think that's purposeful, then you're probably not the right person to join the team.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so purpose and attitude you definitely look for. I think yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You get that quite quickly, don't you, when you meet someone? I think if you meet someone, spend the time with someone over, as I say, a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, you get that quite quickly. I think attitude is critical, particularly at the moment. As I said, the sort of saturated job market. So yeah, it's interesting that you identify that, but it makes complete sense as well. Just thinking about the sector now, because obviously it's a new sector for you, and you're passionate about it as well, and obviously you drive an EV too, so you're fully on board. So char.gy is obviously in a very fast evolving sector, and ideally as an EV driver myself, it would evolve as quickly as possible to find more chargers on the A303 down to Cornwall, etc. What are the strategic priorities that you guys are focusing on now, and I suppose what is driving those decisions?
So I think so just a bit of background, there's 40% of the UK don't have access to on-street charging today, and probably never will, and that could grow if you look at stats about where people will live by 2050 in cities. And we've seen from city builds today, like lots of parking spaces and developments don't have parking spaces, roads are getting clogged up. You could argue that there might be other forms of transport, but that aside, giving access to everybody, there's about 76,000 charge points today that are accessible, both AC and DC, fast speed kind of service station type charge points, and our stuff, which is on the lamppost predominantly, giving people access to charging from home. I think in terms of priorities, a bit of background as well. There's a huge fund, levy fund, that's available across, all of the majority of councils and counties in the UK, and boroughs in London, and it's just an immediate and short-term focus and strategic priorities is understanding what benefit we can add to those areas with the products and services that we offer, and working with the councils to win a number of those bids. That will then give people access, we believe, to easy to connect charge points. And that access, I think, is really important, because there's lots of people that would want to purchase an EV today because they believe in electrical vehicles, but they just simply don't have access. Or actually, some people do have access, but they can be misled on pricing. Obviously, it's not going to be as cheap as charging in your own home, but then there's an infrastructure cost to installing a charge point that depending on how long you're going to stay there, could be a loss maker for you. So it is slightly more expensive to park on the street, but we believe in giving people the best value. I think in terms of priorities longer term, I think it's about the speed of rollout, the volume, and the experience for the customer. So for us, when we get somewhere and we can see real value and we can predict to the best of our ability what the consumption is going to be over time, we want to get in, deliver as quickly as possible, and try to do that with as little or no impact to the people that live in that county. So we don't want to really close roads or pavements, but we want to do it. I guess the point is we want to do it at speed, and we want it, the quicker we believe we can give people access to on-street charging, the quicker they'll sell their petrol vehicle, diesel vehicle, and they'll join the EV revolution, so to speak, which is what we want. And then longer term, I suppose, it's a bit of an unknown. You hear a lot of people talk about hydrogen cars and very other different types of transport, and the behaviour is kind of somewhat unknown. But I think if we get the short to medium term strategic priority right, which is win the bid, deliver at pace, give people access to better charging facilities, I think that will change the future, because people will become more comfortable with EV charging. I think if I look at like my parents, for example, I think if they went to do it today, if they went to the wrong area and plugged into the wrong charge point, they'd probably be put off for life. Whereas if that experience is right, then I think most EV drivers that you meet, once they've done it once they've charged a few times, then there's no looking back. I know we talked about it previously. I think once you've done it and you can see the benefits, then you're hooked. So I guess that would be our strategic priorities immediately.
Yeah. Keep them involved. I do think as well, when you bump into one, there is definitely a sharing of sort of mutual sort of chat, isn't it? It's like, what charges you like, what service stations work, have you planned it out, have you got the right apps, have you got this, that, and the other. There's some good stories and some other ones. I was chatting to a guy I know quite well, CTO, the other week, and he drove down to the south of France, and he was very excited to tell me that the French charging network is very good too, and easy to plan and easy to do, and lots of nice stops on the way. So yeah, I think you do get quite a lot of enthusiasts, should we say. So like the petrol heads of old have now a bit more on the electrical side, and sharing that kind of common interest and excitement as well, isn't it? You find a good charger and it works. It's quite a satisfying moment.
There is
like, it works.
Yeah. I also think there was this big thing around, I could just drive from point A to point B and I didn't have to stop. And I think, I took a job that was 5 hours from home when I had to drive. I had to drive down. The car that I had and the mileage that it could do on the battery it meant I had to stop. But actually, I was pretty naive to think I could do a 4.5, 5 hour drive in a petrol car, which I could have done without stopping. There is after a certain amount of time a need to stop.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes driving an EV car kind of forces you to do it. And actually, I found that really helpful for me, especially to, get a drink, just stretch my legs, refocus on just driving. I don't think it's a negative. I actually think it's a positive. You do need to be a bit more. You need to plan a bit more for sure if you don't have a charge point at home. But again, is that a bad thing? certainly from somebody like me who's kind of spent their entire life in operations and
Yeah.
leading teams, you have to be you have to plan for every eventuality. So that's not a problem, I don't think.
No, agree. And it's not a bad thing to slow down a little bit either. My dad
No,
loves it. So I used to be, can I beat the sat nav? Now it's, can I arrive with more battery? So dad is always, make sure you drive slower, Adam. You've got, precious cargo on board, etc. Now average
yeah,
speed 55 miles an hour on the M4. He's thrilled. So he's over the moon that
yeah,
my agenda has changed somewhat. Can I eke out another 10% of battery? And slow down. But in my car, it just goes ding ding, take a break all the time. So I
mine
think as
does.
well,
Mine does.
being forced to do that. That sort of leads me on to, where do you see the best opportunities and growth within the EV space? I mean, I assume it's around that, isn't it? It's getting people to stop more often, charge up, and then what's there when you stop? It's that's a real opportunity for, well, I assume for growth. But is that how you kind of see it as well in terms of if you were, driving, but equally with your guys on lampposts too? Where's the big growth opportunities? Do you think?
I think there's, that you're building it. I mean, there's loads of things, isn't there? You're building a network. Every charge point is connected to a mobile connection. If I think about my network experience in telecoms, you've got mobile networks, you've got EV networks, you've got fiber networks. There's loads of things, cool things that you could do on the back of that. There's evolution of charge points in terms of, on the street lampposts, on the street 22 kilowatt in curb type solutions, which we're working either to we produce and manufacture our own stuff, but work with some quite innovative companies who are looking at different ways of charging is going to open new windows. And then you've got the customer bases on the back of your app or your platform is hugely, data is very sought after, isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
So I think it's like anything. Once you've got a large customer base, and I think EV is really interesting because you talk about destination charging. For me, I've got a charge point at home, so if I plan it right, I don't often need to charge in on the street or at a destination charge point. But when I do, that experience means usually I need to log in, build a relationship with the app, with the charging company, and those opportunities I think are very exciting. But I think I'm quite pragmatic with it all because I think that is all very exciting and I can see loads of opportunity in that space. But I think first and foremost, my priority is making sure that we get the deployment right and give people what they want, which is easy to access, well priced, charging sessions. Because I think all of the other things which are really exciting are even more exciting when you've got a load of really satisfied customers.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. I think, when I remember back sort of 4 years ago, I got my first EV, the number of apps you had to get, and then you arrive and you haven't got that app, and then you've got to log in and remember your passwords. I think that customer journey has got to be slick, and I'm sure that's everyone's goal anyhow, but it definitely wasn't with certain apps and chargers, or you arrive and it's it's the wrong one. So I think that's the opportunity to engage early doors. And as you mentioned earlier, when you're putting them into lampposts, you don't want to be closing streets down and pavements down, because again, that's just painful, isn't it? It's not the great start. It's the greatest start to a customer journey to be frustrated that your lamppost is out of action or whatever.
Do you know what? I think you just want to be consulted, don't you? If you're gonna go down the road, if you're gonna put a charge point in a road and there's loads of people that don't have EV cars, you want to just give people the opportunity to let them know you're coming and what you're doing, and if they want to consult, or there's a public consultation around the ability to feedback, fine. But also, I think having been in the telco industry for a long time, you've only got to look at the scarring on roads and pavements. There's been a lot of disruption over the last 20, 30 years, whether it's, uplifting the copper to fibre network, building a second, third, fourth fibre network, the uplift of the gas main network, water network. I think it does frustrate people, especially when you're from where I live now, I've moved from London to kind of quite a rural location. Yeah. Like I think probably every week I'm on some form of diversion for a civils activity happening. So the idea of trying to do something that really is thoughtful in terms of reducing that impact should please everybody, I hope.
And then purely out of interest, do the guys who are doing it, or the people who are doing the engineers doing the installations, are they quite well trained, or is that part of a plan to be able to answer questions of residents? So someone comes out their front door and they see an engineer taking apart a lamppost and putting it together again, is there training in place for them to be sort of on hand and
Yeah,
quite sort of commercial, if you know what I mean?
yeah, I think so. We're quite, I think the whole industry is at the beginning of the boom. So,
Mm.
the funding's there. It's with the councils. The councils are procuring their tenders, and we're bidding and winning. We've won Brighton, and it's a hugely exciting time. And we do get people that come out, and some of them are huge detractors, and can't. I remember going to we've just completed quite quickly a 500 charge point rollout in Barnet. And yeah, customer came out, and the first 10 minutes were telling me how bad the world of EV charging was, the disruption, everything we're going to do. And I think by the end, between me and one of my colleagues, we'd convinced this person that actually it wasn't such a bad thing. There's loads of other places you can park. It's actually reasonably priced. And yeah, so I think we've got a relatively small team, so we're able to make sure that our people are clued up to have the conversations. I think that was one thing that was really good at BT, is you do need to train your team, and especially engineers who are the front and cold face sometimes with customers, to have challenging conversations but feel empowered to do it. I always use the analogy, which was told to me, is in terms of culture, from the bottom up to the top down. When the journalist went to Cape Canaveral when they were about to fire the first rocket into space, and said to the cleaner, what are you here for? And the cleaner said, I'm here to put the first man on the moon. I think if I can get the business to operate in that way, which is everybody understands what we're doing, why we're doing it, and can deal with tricky questions, I think that's really important.
Definitely, and there will be, yeah, as you said, there will be detractors. So it's great that happens.
Oh yeah,
You can do that. So I think that's key. It's part of probably a piece of change management in there, isn't there? You're not just there to go and deliver a piece of engineering, but actually let's talk about this. Let's preach. Let's convert. Etc. So makes a lot of sense. I guess that last thing, coming back to you a little bit here, is I guess what advice would you give to someone who is going into a fairly senior leadership role with a startup?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things. I think probably at the beginning, we talked about balance earlier. I think be prepared for there to be, an unbalanced start. So I think you definitely need to be you do need to kind of throw yourself into it, which might mean that you spend a bit more time in the office, you're out with a few more customers, you're on the road a bit longer. Because in order to get up to speed, you will be expected as a senior leader to get up to speed quicker. You're bringing a wealth of experience. You've usually been selected because of that experience and your capability to be onboarded quicker than maybe somebody else. I think that's important to realise. And I think what the advice I would give based on my experience would also be, if you're approaching the business for a job, or if you've been approached to go and have a conversation, then I think you need to do your due diligence, both on the company, the sector. And I would always say that if you're going to go into a senior leadership role, it's really, really important to meet your boss. So in my world, I went to meet our CEO, a guy called John, because I was really clear that, I might think he's great, and I do think he's great, obviously. But if he doesn't think I'm great, I'd rather know up front, and maybe that opportunity wasn't the right one for me. So I think that's the second point, which is take the time to meet the boss, take the time to meet some of your peers, to make sure that you're entering in the world that you're comfortable with, and that you're prepared to put the time in up front to build those relationships. And I think about the other thing is, when you go into a senior leadership role, think about what help network you have, and think about what things that you might not be an expert in, that you might need help with. So for me, I was really clear when I sat down with my boss initially that I need to learn the industry, learn the sector, and I need to build a network from within the sector. I like to think I've got a really good telecoms network, and actually they've been really helpful in this, because there's a lot of similarities, which is why I came across. But actually, I've needed to learn more about power, transmission, distribution networks. So I think it's really important, if you're going to go into something new that's going to be challenging, think about what help you might need and who you might need that help from, rather than taking the job and thinking after a couple of weeks, shit, I don't know what I'm doing here, and I don't know who to call.
Yeah.
Maybe start reaching out early to make sure that you surround yourself with people that can help. They would probably be my, having done it now a couple of times since I've left Openreach, I think that I've learned from those experiences.
Yeah, good learnings. Don't blag it. Ask for help.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and look
yeah,
at it as a strength for asking for.
yeah,
Like, people always ask me about building networks. I wouldn't say I'm the most kind of. I think I am sociable, and I do like a conversation. Do like to get. I'm certainly not the most, but I think it's not even cynical, is it? You need a network of people around you, both to talk to about validation of your thoughts and feelings, but also to help you open doors so you can start building the knowledge you need to be successful at your job. Because at the end of the day, you know, if you're successful at your job, the business that you're working that's paying you and your team will be successful. So I think that is really important. You know, the more senior you go, if you're not prepared to do that, I think it can be a real problem.
yeah.
But then
Don't
again,
isolate yourself. No,
yeah,
it's good.
most
Yeah,
senior leaders do it, and that's probably why they're in senior leadership roles. Not on. It's not the only thing or the only reason they are, but in general terms, I think you do realise quite quickly, just to build that network of support, both inside work and outside work. You know, the other thing I would say is, in my experience, is, you know, check with your family, especially in my world, your wife and your kids. That
yeah,
you know, I was lucky; I'd spent 9 months with them full time. So when I went off to a job that was 5 hours from where I live, I they were okay with it. You know, I was still
I was
going
going
to.
to say, did you check that?
Yeah, I
Check
did.
with the
Yeah,
family that
definitely.
I'm just going to go and work down there for it. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah. I checked with Lizzie,
yeah,
and I spoke to my oldest daughter Elsie and said, you know,
yeah,
I'm going to be away for a few nights a week. How do you feel about that? You know, I'll make sure that when I'm back, I'm going to be all in, and you know, we'll speak on the phone when I'm in the hotel and stuff like that. And you know, that was fine. It was all that the green light, the tick, go ahead.
yeah.
It probably didn't work out as I'd planned, but I'm really glad I did it, because I would know what I now know, you know, what it is that motivates me and I'm comfortable with, and I know what doesn't and what I'm uncomfortable with, um, which helped me form the decision to join char.gy and will help me in the future.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's great. Well, honestly, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really, really good talking to you. Really, really appreciate your time as well, because I appreciate you're very busy with your new role in a startup. So it's been great.
Thank you.